The World Bank has approved Kenya's request for a $750 million loan aimed at addressing the coronavirus pandemic, financing gap, and support the country's economy.
The loan comes with an annual interest rate of 3.0% and forms part of a two-part series of development policy operations initiated in 2020. This will help strengthen fiscal sustainability through reforms and promote efficient public investment spending. Part of the funds will be used to set up an electronic platform for public procurements to foster transparency and curb corruption. This is the third time Kenya has received funding from the credit facility after $1 billion was approved in May last year and $750 million in 2019. Though the East African country has the most advanced economy in East and Central Africa, the largest source of its 27.6% external debt comes from the World Bank.
Well, for more on this, we are joined by Dr Margaret Monyani, who's a lecturer in international relations at Wits University here in Johannesburg. Dr Monyani, always good to talk to you. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you so much, and thanks for having me.
$750 million. Is this great news for Kenya?
Yeah, of course, money is always good news. So, we are living in a world of globalization. States' needs are increasing every other day, and developing countries are also trying to catch up and get a status from developing, low-class countries to mid-level to develop. So there is that aspiration to grow as a country. So it makes sense that states will always borrow internally and externally. So this is just one of the sources that Kenya has to turn to get monies to finance its budget. But there is the question, yes, the money is good. Kenyans are happy the money is here, but there are three things. One, is it necessary to get that money? As in, what is the purpose of the loan? Was it important for the state to go out and ask for this financing? Yes, we agree, because of the COVID-19 that happened recently, and of course the economy was brought down to its knees. So it makes sense. But then there is the realization, the practical part of it, the implementation. And if we go back into history, and we know Kenya has always lost such good opportunities. There is the state getting good money like this, but it ends up in the wrong hands. So because of the issues of corruption. Secondly, there is the issue of, right now there is a well outlined purpose for the loan that is supposed to be used for fiscal accountability, set up reforms around fiscal management. There is the issue about green energy, well outlined. But then when it gets to the implementation, is that what the money is going to be used for? And if yes, indeed, it gets used for that, Kenyans want to feel the impact, because if those who have been following keenly, they will see the Jubilee government has done a lot of good work in terms of getting loans from China and building roads. So Kenyans can see very good roads around them, but their quality of life hasn't improved. So there is always that gap between the loans, where it was invested, and the quality of life. So if citizens don't see that their lives are changing, it remains a big challenge, because at the end of the day, people want to eat, have access to basic needs. They have good food, education, healthcare, and school, all this. So if it doesn't translate to that, it still becomes a big problem. So that is just one way to look at it. But there is also the challenge of the ballooning debt. I think that has been talked about clearly, that Kenya seems to be borrowing way too much, and that is also a big problem. And it can because at the end of the day, why do governments get money all the time? Because governments never go broke. They will go to people's pockets through taxes to pay the debts, and that if the debts were not used for the proper projects, then it becomes a burden to the taxpayer.
I think you might have partly answered my next question. So one of the things that we're seeing a lot right now is COVID-19 is being offered as a premise to the woes of a country, and it's just not just Kenya. But the reality is, when you look back at a lot of these countries, before COVID-19...
Sorry, I missed a bit.
All right, I was just saying that one of the things that we're seeing is that COVID-19 is being used as a premise to explain a country's problems. But when we look back in time at a lot of these countries, there were issues before COVID-19. Kenya has been borrowing before COVID-19. And so the question is, has it been because of mismanagement? And if that's the case, what will improve now with this so-called COVID money?
Yes, one can look at it that way, that there have been issues, and governments never lack reasons why they should get money. They have always had issues that we are developing roads, like we need this kind of projects. They always have, the justification is not the issue. They get the money comes in, but the issue is about mismanagement. Because according to IMF and World Bank standards, is that our country is safe when the public debt, that means external and internal borrowed money collectively, should not be more than 50% of the GDP. But if you see, since 2011, that percentage has been growing from 30. We are now more about to hit 50. We are around 43, 44. But there is the projection by the end of the year, it will be around 70%. And that is very dangerous. It means now we will be totally in debt. So there is the issue of mismanagement, and there have been cases, even in the media, investigations around big scandals in Kenya, where money just comes in, but it goes to the wrong place. It goes to people's pockets. That's why it ends up. And then the burden of payment goes to the taxpayer. So that still remains. I was even surprised that they are now talking about the 750 million is going in to work on issues of corruption. And yet we have always had in structures, the Anti-Corruption Commission, many other acts already are in place, the Kenya Public Finance Management Act, there's the Article 201 of the Kenyan Constitution that talks about accountability and even encourages that the public should participate in finance management. But you realize that the public are called at ward levels if there is a road that needs to be built or a school. The budget is read to them, but they're just there to stamp. At the end of the day, when those people go back to their offices, the public doesn't know how the money will be spent. It is just about making sure that no one challenges the process later on. So it's just like a formality. I think there is a lot that needs to be done around mismanagement, because the issue is not money. Money comes in, but the mismanagement is where the problem lies.
Talking about corruption, they say that part of these funds are going to assist in fiscal management reforms, public procurement being one of them, where an electronic process is going to be introduced, making it more transparent and making it less vulnerable to corruption. Do you buy that?
Well, I'm to be honest, I'm very skeptical about that. Because at the end of the day, the electronic system is run by human beings. I think there is the problem around our culture, our socialization, about just being the issues of integrity are at play here. Because at the end of the day, you see who will be king, the people who will be keying figures. It is just human beings who will be operating the electronic system. So I think we need to emphasize more issues around integrity. Not long ago, it was in the news. There is a county government in Kenya that opened a Twitter handle at $20,000. I don't know where that happens in the world. Some other county government bought a wheelbarrow at $1,000 each. That is just exaggerated figures. And at the end of the day, the monies were never recovered. It's just exposed, but no one follows it up to say, okay, this money was lost. These people should even leave the office. I mean, they should go home and explain to us and even pay, because this is public money. So for me, I'm a little skeptical about that, because I think this is an integrity issue. It's about the software of us as human beings, as Kenyans. So that's where I see. But there is more that there is more that we need to do just than just putting up an electronic system.
This development policy operation, one of the pillars they talk about is the energy sector, public-private partnerships being encouraged, and moving to efficient green energy paths. How do you see that playing out? Is that something that really can be a game changer for Kenya? In which case, this 750 million can really contribute?
Yeah, that is I would say that is an important area to focus on, honestly, because energy is everything. Once energy is expensive, people cannot put up manufacturing costs go up, then goods become expensive, and then it also doesn't give space for local manufacturing industries to grow and local businesses, so it becomes an issue. And in Kenya, there is only one, just like one ESCOM, Kenya Power. So there is always an issue around energy. It's very expensive. So energy is an important sector to focus on. I would really vouch for that, because we have this blueprint, the Vision 2030, and it's one of its pillars is the economic pillar, and one of the stipulations is that Kenya should be transformed into a industrialized state by 2030. I'm not sure that will happen, but I think if necessary steps are started at the point of on the path of green energy, that will be a big booster for the Vision 2030.
And the way Kenya has sold this application was largely based on that it's going to contribute to significant reform in the country. Do you see genuine signs of this? And we're also getting into a time where there might be a change in government. Will some of these promises be carried through?
I think that's a very good question. And one of those challenges also of many African states is that we do not have continued proper flow between one government to the next. You will always find people coming up with new policies every other day. Even someone who was like in this government, like the deputy president right now, he's campaigning with a completely new model. Then you ask yourself, why did he support the other model when he had a completely new model in mind? What happened to what he had started? So there is that challenge, and I see where you're coming from, that sometimes, and when governments are borrowing, like those who are going to hand over to the next, they know the burden will not be, the accountability will not be on them. So when the money comes in and how it will be used, it will be on the next government. So you find there is disjoint that what was started never flows into the next government. And that is one thing many African countries should focus on, so that we have, and that stems from the nature of our politics. Even our political parties are not centered on issues, are not centered on policy. They are centered around individuals, so that it is so and so's party. So it's and that becomes a problem. Like if you compare that with the US, where we have Republicans, we have this. Their manifesto is the same. It's known for years. But when you go to countries like Kenya, you find now there is the Jubilee government. They had their own manifesto. They had their own outline. Now another person comes in, and they change everything. So that is also one area that African countries should sit and reflect on. And Kenya being an economic powerhouse in East Africa, that is one of the things that they should really sit down and focus and think about it seriously.
Dr. Monyani, thank you so much indeed. It's always great talking to you. Your thoughts on what's happening in Kenya, always greatly appreciated. Asante sana.
Karibu.
Kwaheri. All right, and that's where we'll leave our conversation with Dr. Margaret Monyani, who's a lecturer of international relations at Wits University here in Johannesburg, talking to us about this $750 million loan that's been given to Kenya to help it come out of the COVID-19 process